Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Walton. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Good morning. It is Friday, December 21st, in the first year of Donald Trump. I guess, I don't know, it's like the second year of Donald Trump. Should we just start marking time that way? I guess he's just, he's making America great again, and it's all fantastic. It is December 21st, 2018. If you are from the future or listening to my later podcast when I'm forced during the Christmas break of 2019 to play this podcast again, I don't know. I don't even know why I tell you what the date is. I think it's actually to alert you if you're listening live that it's not a rerun. Daily Coast Radio is live. Now, honest to God, of course, unless I'm playing this next year, in which case we're not, I don't know what to tell you. It's one of those gray areas of constitutional law. Up is down, black is white. It's appropriate for today. We are live, though. Kagro X, that's me, I think, maybe, reports that Donald Trump was up snorting nuclear option grade Adderall last night. Thank you, Bill. And now Mitch McConnell has a shutdown on his hands. And who knows what else. I can't even tell you. Okay. Woo. Man. And, let's talk about what's going on here today. Armando signals that he would love to come on today. I bet you would. But as you know, that takes 60 votes in the Senate, and you can't do it. Yeah, absolutely. Is Greg on today? Greg is not, although, again, Greg may also frantically be reaching for the phone and saying, oh, my God, this might be the last chance in the United States of America to broadcast on this show. Stuff's falling apart today. It's bad news, no indication that it's any worse than the normal chaos, but I'm just normalizing things at this point. It's Friday. Once midnight rolls around and we're still 15 hours from that, the shutdown, the partial government shutdown, but it's pretty major in terms of which departments are going to shut down. Does everybody know how that works, by the way? If at the end of the expiration of the current continuing resolution, there's no resolution to it, no new continuing resolution or whatever, then all of the departments that have not had their fiscal year 2019 appropriations bills signed into law yet are subject to the shutdown. So that's how it works. And I looked it up, and I forget already what the answer is. But I was checking on it to see. Here we go. Vox has the news. First of all, this brief Vox explainer on what is the United States and what is the United States government. They stopped doing that mostly, I think. Li Zhu, Z-H-O-U, and Li, by the way, is L-I, has told us what's open and closed during a partial government shutdown. During this particular partial government shutdown, at any rate, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are set to keep functioning. They usually do this by declaring those to be essential functions of government. This becomes important. A shutdown is sort of a soft thing. You shut down departments that haven't been funded yet, as I told you, and we'll clear that up with a little bit more, I hope, from Vox. But if you haven't been funded, but you perform an essential service, in other words, if you shut down the government and Russia invades, does the army have to sit there and allow them to invade because the government is shut down? No, they don't. They would be essential personnel, except for the fact that today they would surrender by order of the President of the United States, quote unquote, to invading Russians. And they're not invading, they're annexing us. And from what I've heard, most of the people there want to be part of Russia. So it's okay. That's how that works. So the department heads typically are the ones in charge of designating what is essential and what is not. And in normal times, and there are government shutdowns in normal times, it's a pretty standard play. Occasionally things get tweaked, new programs have to be decided about, but you pull out the old playbook. These are the people who are essential, these are the people who are not. Cabinet secretaries could still report to work. Yes, they would be essential personnel. So what becomes important when we take a look at this article, we figure out who's subject to shutdown. Donald Trump, of course, says he has officially said, by which I mean he has tweeted, that he won't sign a funding bill approved by the Senate, ratcheting up the possibility that the government could go into a partial shutdown later this week. Not that much later. It's like we said, what do we say, 15 hours now? Less, because it's 9:06. The December 21st deadline for funding a portion of the government, including the State Department, the Justice Department, the Transportation Department, the Agriculture Department, and the Department of the Interior, is rapidly approaching. Parentheses. Other agencies have already been fully funded, including the Department of Health and Human Services. Close paren. So what happens? No agreement reached by midnight. The State Department, Justice Department, Transportation Department, Agriculture Department, Department of the Interior close. Probably a few other related independent agencies that might be lumped into their appropriations bills. If you want to know exactly what the answer to that is, go and take a look at essentially go and take a look at the list of subcommittees of the Appropriations Committee. They're divided up in their committee names. Their jurisdictions match the jurisdictions they cover in the appropriations bills they report out. And so I forget exactly who. They move things around from time to time. So, for instance, I don't know. There's various independent agencies, and sometimes the bill doesn't really even tell you what they are. They say, a bill for funding the Department of Justice and other purposes. Anyway, if you're really interested in it, the information is out there, and it's not always that straightforward. Bottom line of this particular paragraph is the State Department, in the middle of the withdrawal of all troops from Syria, and that now also tweeted out halving, apparently, of troops deployed in Afghanistan. The State Department shut down in the middle of all this, which actually brings me to a slightly different subject, which I might, well, maybe we'll throw that out there later. But my first subject is State Department, Justice Department. Now, here's a question. What do we have going on in the Justice Department right now that is out of the ordinary, unusual, might not be in the playbook when it comes to what to do during government shutdowns and whether or not certain people are essential personnel? The answer, of course, what makes it special? It's the special counsel. They're special. And they're not always there. And there may actually be guidance in the books in the past, because there have been special counsel investigations before. I don't know if they were ongoing during shutdowns or not. Here comes Armando. Hey, Armando, hang on just a second.
Finish.
But I am just wondering, one, I don't know whether there's any guidance in any of the books, figuratively speaking, the books. And two, I am relatively sure that does not matter, what's in the books. The thing I'm going to get to here is, oh, look at this. My Skype has just quit unexpectedly. So let's try and reopen that and reestablish our connection with Armando in just a minute. But the question here is, who will be determining on behalf of the Department of Justice, what is and isn't an essential person? Who is and isn't, who is or aren't? How do I phrase this? Essential personnel during the shutdown. In other words, is the Mueller team essential personnel, or does the government shutdown, which takes the Department of Justice with it, shutting down the Mueller investigation? And the answer that the administration, if there was one, would hand you is, well, that's Matt Whitaker, purportedly the acting attorney general. I contend that he is not the acting attorney general, of course, but he has just decided recently, and we'll get into some of the background of that, that he no longer has to, well, let's see, hey, Armando, you there? You know what? Our connection is weird here. Hang on just a second. Let me try and fix some of this. I think the shutdown, the government has shut down Skype, apparently. And, well, let's see if we can get that back online. Armando?
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I got you now. All right. So I don't know if you heard what we were musing about here, but I'm wondering whether or not
essential.
Yeah. So is Mueller essential, and does Matt Whitaker, who is not the acting attorney general, get to pretend he is the acting attorney general and just decide that he's going to declare them non-essential, and they'll keep the government and possibly the Department of Justice, or that part of it, shut down forever, for instance. That might be an interesting option. Matt Whitaker, of course, came into, purported to have come into the job, insisting that he had the authority to defund the Mueller investigation, and he would do it that way. Now the shutdown has defunded the Mueller investigation, potentially. All he has to do is say, I'm the acting attorney general. I say Mueller's non-essential. I mean, it's a witch hunt and a hoax. That can't be essential, right? So goodbye. It's closed. You're going to file a subpoena? No, you're not. You're closed. The Justice Department will now sue to enjoin the special counsel's office from filing any motions in court. And we also would like to sell off their furniture because they're not coming back. What stands in the way of that?
Nothing.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
They could do that, I believe.
Okay. Well, I would say before lunchtime today, guidance will be out on that. And they'll say, Merry Christmas, Mr. Mueller. Take some time off your stupid witch hunt. I'm sure everything will resolve itself shortly. But in the meantime, well, it won't make a big difference anyway. What's the big deal? The courts aren't going to be open for the next couple of days anyway. So take a flyer. Just don't come back.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would put nothing past them at all. So that's certainly possible. And they might not even announce it. They might just tell Mueller and never tell anybody else. Yeah,
that's possible. Or, for that matter, the Department of Justice might not shut down. Large swaths of it may remain open as essential. But Matt Whitaker may just say that the Mueller investigation isn't essential, and or may just tweet it, and who knows whether they'll believe it or not. So
I suspect that they won't do that. It would be kind of stupid for Whitaker, but they're stupid. That's hardly a basis for predicting what they're going to do. It's certainly worth following.
I think I would put a small sum. I think they're going to do it. I do think, because why not? They'll say it's horrible, but unfortunately the Democrats did this, not us.
Right. It's a Democratic shutdown of Mueller.
I don't know why the Democrats decided to shut down Mueller. Maybe they now admit it's a witch hunt and they're tired of wasting money on it now that they're going to need money for the wall. Now that they've agreed to fund the wall. What? We no longer need to waste money on this witch hunt. And I'm glad they've come to their senses. So I would imagine that you'll be eating dinner and read that news tonight.
It's possible. Can I take you into the weeds?
All right.
What's Mitch
sure,
McConnell
I'm out in the clear
today?
right here. Mitch McConnell is going to nuke the filibuster and pass the $5 billion of wall funding. We are at that point. I neglected to mention that both Trump, who asks for it all the time, and at least one senator, and not that means anything, are out there saying, we should nuke the filibuster in order to get the $5 billion that the House passed, approved by the Senate today. And I will just say that is some super hot timeline for the United States Senate, the world's greatest deliberative body, to go from unanimous consent yesterday for a CR with zero wall funding to nuking the filibuster for the wall that Mexico is paying for. It's like,
let me just
why
ask
do we have
you.
a
I
government?
think I know the answer, but it's a stupid question. But just to be clear,
okay,
the bill that the House passed yesterday, its expiry date is the new Congress, correct?
Yes.
Right. So this Senate can only pass that bill. The new Senate can't pass the House bill that was passed yesterday.
Right. That's true. So it's a one-shot thing unless they somehow get the House back in.
I was just thinking of that because I'll be at 53 on January 3rd, and not that would be enough, but just wondering if that could possibly come into play. Could they take up the bill that was passed yesterday? And my instincts apparently were correct. They cannot. That bill dies when that House dies, when that Congress dies.
Yes, when the Congress adjourns, sine die. I'm not sure when that's going to be. Sometimes they do it when they really have no intention of coming back. So occasionally it's in December. The current modern practice is, you never know what's going to happen. Just leave the House and Senate in session and dissolve the previous Congress literally the second before convening the new one, so that there's no gap. So
right. So
January 3rd.
Of course, the new Congress will never pass anything like that, and we're back where we started, presumably. Now, one of the things I was reading, Chad Pergram, who covers Congress for Fox, but is fairly well informed, says that there's a significant doubt that they could even have a motion to proceed on the House bill.
I guess that's possible.
They may not have 50 votes. They have absences, but I don't know how they all balance out. Of course, just to go back to the first point, the nuking the filibuster, they're at 51. I guess they could lose one Republican vote and Pence could break the tie and they could nuke the filibuster.
Right.
But I don't think they'd lose one. I think they'd lose more than one, number one. And number two, that process couldn't be done. I guess it could be if everybody just agreed that, we're suspending all the rules.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
Why not?
But normal procedure, it would take a while to actually nuke the filibuster. Or do you just ask for a ruling?
Yeah.
And
I guess you could just do that. You don't necessarily have to be in the middle of one, I guess, to do that.
Yeah, I guess they could say I move that the parliamentarian rule, that the filibuster rule is not in effect.
Yeah.
And the parliamentarian says no, it is in effect, and they say, well, I want to vote, and then they get 50 votes plus the vice president.
Yeah.
And overrule the parliamentarian.
Right. Or as I posited this morning, they get 49 votes, and they say that wins, right? And the parliamentarian says no, so they fire the parliamentarian, hire another one, and they keep firing them until somebody says 49 is a majority. And then they say, "What?" We all say that's crazy. You can't undo math. And they say, "Well, what are you gonna do? Sue?" The Supreme Court will tell you it's a political issue, and come back to us, and we'll say it's 49 today. Anyway, if that bothers you, then it's 50 again tomorrow.
I guess, if there are no, if there's no rules, there's no rules. So I guess McConnell could just do by fiat if everybody accepts it. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but anyway, the thing, what triggers all this, of course, is Rush Limbaugh and Coulter yell at Trump.
Russia Limbaugh.
He was going to sign that. He told the senators that he was going to sign the clean CR.
Yes.
And then they were yelling at him in the morning.
Yes, and Coulter unfollowed him.
And he got all upset about that. And then when the House was going to vote for it, they were called down to the White House and told he wasn't going to sign it.
Yeah. They had just passed it, I think it was 300 plus votes.
Yeah.
Veto-proof majority. He said, I'm going to veto it. They had just come there with a veto-proof majority. And powerhouse that he is, Paul Ryan, said, I actually have enough votes to simply say, it doesn't matter what you think, Mr. President, this is the way it's going to go. Decided his last act would be full capitulation to Donald Trump because it's extremely important to his political career, which is ending in a week. But I assume he's going to come run for president.
Run for president. I guess he thought this would be held against him, and that's the reason he does it. But the reality is, I'm with you. I think his political career is over. I don't think he's ever going to be anything ever again. I assume he's just going to be a lobbyist, and that's it. Like Boehner, he'll be selling marijuana or something.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
you know the Boehner thing. Yeah, right? He's Mr. Marijuana now.
Yeah, which is amazing. Although I guess if you ever looked at his face, that guy's been high a long time.
Most of these guys don't care about that. And plus, now that the cigarette companies or the tobacco companies are getting into marijuana, it makes perfect sense.
Vaping, marijuana, Bitcoin, probably.
Yes.
For all I know.
Yes. So, here's I do want to play this out. Yes, you're right. The shutdown, first of all, it's terrible. It's millions of people are not going to get paid over Christmas. It's awful. Most times in the shutdowns, at least in the past, they get their money eventually. Right? At least the people that have to work.
Yes, I mean, well, like I said, in the past, I think you mentioned that's true. I mean, this is not normal. Trump could say, "We need that money for the wall," or "You weren't working, so no, you're not getting paid." Trump would do that. What do you mean, pay you? You were not working. We weren't working because you forced us out. Yeah, but what can I tell you? You want money for not working? No. America's with me on that.
There's a guy, there was
It might
some
even be
congressman who said exactly that. He said, hey, how come government workers don't have to suffer during layoffs? Private sector does. I mean, who lives paycheck to paycheck in this country?
The country.
Seriously, he said that.
Right, yeah.
That's what he said. I think it was Steve Perry. I think his name was from Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania's congressman.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Republicans frequently say, "Oh, I need to be paid more because you can't make it on $186,000 in this country or whatever," and that's lower middle class.
Right. But apparently, living paycheck to paycheck is something that they're not familiar with.
Right.
The end game here, I can't see one reason. I wish somebody could explain why anybody would think the Democrats are going to negotiate on this. Why should they?
I don't know.
On January 3rd, they get all the cards back.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens then? Is he really going to shut down the government for the rest of his presidency? I guess it's possible.
I mean, yeah, it is possible. And he may, I don't know. I mean, it may be his strategy. Who can tell? That may be his strategy to say they'll open it up for 2 weeks and then close it again for a week or 2 weeks and then open it again. And, every 2 weeks they'll close it and then the president will come back and say, I'd be willing to allow the Democrats to shut down the government again. Yes. What we'll do is this week I'll sign a continuing resolution that lasts for 2 weeks, during which time we'll try and seek a solution, but Democrats will obstruct, and then I'll shut the government down again. The government will close every 2 weeks, and he'll say, this is the Democrats doing this.
Well, the continuing resolution that this had only went to like February 8th or something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't
right
a long-term bill. So in theory, he had all that still available, just starting in February as opposed to January. But Ed Coulter didn't like that, and Rush Limbaugh didn't like that. Now, I still don't know their logic because I guess they said, well, this is our point of maximum leverage, and I guess in theory it is.
That's the thing he understands.
No leverage is having no leverage. They have no leverage. Trump sat in that meeting and said it's going to be his shutdown. So it's his shutdown. Yeah. Congratulations, you have a shutdown.
Right. He's already, reversed that because, of course, somebody said that's dumb.
Yeah, but that doesn't work.
Change your mind on that. So he did. Whoops. I don't know, man. I just don't know.
And now it's McConnell's shutdown because he won't nuke the filibuster. So
that could be. He might blame it on him.
I just, for a man who says he's a good negotiator, I just think he really just needed to take the hit from Coulter. What are they going to do to him?
I don't know. I mean, well, we know. I don't know. I was going to say we know differently, but on his side, of course, his base, whatever happens, they don't care. I mean, if he has his head chopped off, that's great.
Exactly.
He's better without a head. Which he
That's
is.
What I'm saying.
But
I don't understand why he freaked out.
I don't know either. But on his side, though, what's going on? What are they viewing as objective reality? Is Nancy Pelosi, crazy San Francisco liberal idiot, traitor, communist, whatever? Nancy Pelosi. What did she say? She said we didn't have the votes to pass it. She dared me to pass it. I did. I told you, Nancy, I have the votes. I could pass it in 2 seconds. And then he passed it in 2 seconds.
Congratulations. Now what?
Yeah, I mean, but this is exactly the scenario he tells. But it doesn't matter because we don't have the votes in the Senate. And he said it right out there. So they'll say he was absolutely correct. And in that sense, he was. What? I was curious about why Nancy Pelosi thought there weren't the votes. And then became convinced. Somebody said, there's too many Republicans absent. Okay, well, I'll check. I guess she's right. She's really good at counting votes. Yesterday, though, I looked to see how many people were absent. And there's a lot, but not that many. By the time they voted on this thing, they were down to about 30-something absences. There were about 70 absences at the beginning of the week. Maybe then, maybe previously, but I was like, look, there's still a majority of Congress that is in the House is Republicans, why wouldn't they pass wall funding now that they've been dared to do it? I was a little curious about that, and the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. Maybe she shouldn't have said it, but who cares? I mean, in the scheme of things, so what?
That's true. I mean, I keep saying, YOLO, nothing matters. All right, nothing matters. What am I upset about?
I mean, they passed it.
Yes.
I can't. What is McConnell? Now they threw it back to McConnell. You make McConnell look bad, piss off a bunch of Republican senators.
Yeah. Well,
including McConnell. McConnell must be really upset because he bit the bullet on that criminal justice thing that he didn't want to put up, and he did it for Trump, and then Trump screwed him. It's hilarious.
That's awesome. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not certain how much Trump wants the shutdown versus would he rather win and get the wall money, or would he rather have the shutdown? I don't know.
He just didn't want to get yelled at by Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh. It's the weirdest thing.
So,
but then he got yelled at on Fox today over Mattis, apparently.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention
what's his name? Kilmeade said that Trump's the founder of ISIS this morning, which is hilarious.
Oh,
he said it. It to Sarah Sanders.
Well, congratulations.
She got very offended that anybody would say that about the president.
Oh, well, you got to respect the office.
You got to respect the office.
The other guy was the founder of ISIS. You got to respect it. And he's the founder of ISIS, Obama. You can't just take it away from him because you respect the office, even a former president.
I know everybody gets, and Greg's, our Greg says, people get crazy, and Greg Sargent says it too.
Yes.
Nothing matters, but it does matter a little bit because.
Our Greg doesn't say that.
All right, we're on a break, but I will tell you why it does matter.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll come back in a second. Yeah, but our Greg says our Greg is always constantly trying to dissuade me from saying YOLO, nothing matters. So
yes, and I think he's right on this one point, and that's a miracle. And I will explain the miracle for Christmas.
Hi, it's me, David Waldman, your host for Kagro in the Morning, with a brand new interruption, though it's still aimed at saying thank you to all of you who are supporters of the show. We've made a lot of progress. When we first started this campaign, fewer than 1 in 25 regular listeners were donating to help keep us on the air. And now that's down to about 1 in 15. But we've got a long way to go. Remember, it won't take much. Our average monthly donation is currently about $7, for which you're getting 2 hours of great news and entertainment 5 days a week. What's that, 70 cents an hour? That's a pretty good deal. But as a wage, well, I think Democrats would be against that. But if we all put our 70 cents together, or even half of us, that'd really be something. And my kids could go to college. Now, that's not all on you. But remember, patreon.com, Patreon.com, is there to make it easy. You can find us there by searching Kagro X, or David Waldman, or Kagro in the Morning, or even Daily Coast Radio in their search box. And you'll be right there where you need to be to make easy, recurring monthly contributions to support our show. Once again, thanks so much for your continuing support. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. And we stopped the lively conversation that we were having during the break to think about how we were going to recreate it now that we're back on the air. Where some of our greatest moments, not really usually, but take place off the air.
I will, first of all, answer about the Christmas miracle of Greg being right.
Happy Christmas.
The reason he's right is it does. This isn't just normal Trump being outrageous. It's just Trump being out of control and not knowing what he's doing. Because look how it plays out.
Yes.
All right. Today's the 21st. It's almost Christmas. Then the next week is Christmas. Yeah, it'll be shut down, but people aren't going to. I don't think the shutdown is going to register that deeply with the populace as opposed to the people, real people, millions of people who are going to be really destroyed. There's definitely going to be anti-Trump after all this, or most of them anyway, but they probably were already. But, nothing happens. It's New Year's. They come back January 3rd. That's only, 9 plus 3, 12 days from now. Speaker Pelosi takes the gavel.
Yeah.
Now what? Now what? There's no bill. Trump will probably think they can still pass the House bill.
Oh, yes.
The question probably. I asked you, because I bet you he's going to think that this isn't thought through. And it's shut down. There's no bill for the Senate to take up. And Pelosi will pass a clean bill. And it'll go to the Senate. And it's very possible the Senate, if McConnell's upset, and he could be, he's just going to pass a clean bill. Says, I can't do it, Mr. President. I've got to pass this clean bill. And they pass it, and he vetoes it.
Yeah.
Then what?
I guess you could try overriding the veto like they did, as they were noting yesterday.
I think, I don't know if they can or can't, but at the end of the day, Trump is vetoing the spending bill. He's keeping the government shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Clinton had to veto bills.
Yeah.
Remember in 95, Clinton had to veto spending bills. He had to actually veto them. And then it was all spend wars, whose fault it was. He said, I was protecting Medicare and Social Security, whatever. I forget what the exact lines were. Gingrich said whatever Gingrich said, and Dole said whatever Dole said. And then, eventually they reached a deal, and Clinton got most of what he wanted, supposedly. And off they went. Here it's about this wall thing. And I actually think it's an opportunity because Trump is stupid and a bad negotiator. I think you start making a wish list if you're the Democrats and saying, this is what I want in exchange for this $5 billion. I want DACA. I want gateway funding if I'm Schumer. I want Mueller protection bill. You start putting 6, 7, and here's your wall money too, with 7 or 8 things that are things that are just near and dear to your heart. That you would never get past the Senate. Otherwise, okay. Unless Trump makes him do it.
Yes. You try and do that? There'd be a bit of a fight over that, of course. But
I understand it's going to get some
this
people,
is one suggestion.
Who's going to be against gateway funding and DACA legislation and Mueller protection bill?
I don't know.
If I could put enough goodies on it, I think I'd get buy-in from the Democrats.
Okay. Maybe. It is possible.
I think that McConnell just goes and says, well, I'm not passing this, Mr. President. I don't care what you say. And then he yells at McConnell or something. I don't know. This is the whole thing. How does Trump get out of this?
I don't know. It's hard to...
And he doesn't. So he's got chaos. And the government's shut down. That's not good for your political prospects.
Right, also.
It's not a sign of you governing the country well. Yeah, I know it'll get his 30% or his 35%, whoever that amount is. But, 35% math. That means 65% are on the other side.
True.
So how does this work for him? How does he get out of this? What was he thinking? He wasn't thinking is the point, because he's stupid and crazy.
Well, yeah.
But it becomes manifest. It's not just some crazy tweet. It actually impacted the government.
Yeah.
So in that sense, Greg is right. The chaos, it does matter politically, and it will drop. I bet you in the Gallup weekly and any new approval polls, he loses 3 or 4 points this week.
Okay.
And the Mattis thing is up another part of the chaos, which we haven't talked about yet.
Right.
Mattis resigned, but not only resigned, first of all, Trump lied about it and said he retired.
Yes. Oh, Mattis?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Okay.
Which is pretty funny. He tweeted it out before the Mattis letter came out.
He's retiring. Okay.
Right. And the speculation was, Mattis handed him the letter, but Trump never read it.
Oh, that's possible.
So he just tweeted it out to be first without having read it. Of course, the letter's pretty devastating in the sense that he basically says Trump is a Russian dupe.
No.
Yes, I know. And everyone says, wow. Yeah, we all knew this, but of course Mattis says it, and that makes the Beltway, talking heads sit up because they love Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, who was the grown-up, who was the, the rails. And then, of course, there are leaks of stories. There was a story I saw that one day Trump was watching Fox and something came up about North Korea, and he ordered some crazy military action or something or other. I don't know what that military action was, but Mattis apparently either disregarded the order or interpreted it in a way that he didn't have to do it. I don't know. But anyway, supposedly Mattis
That rings a
stopped
bell.
some craziness. And all that comes out. And Mattis, I don't know if he'll go out and start talking about things, but he did write the letter. And the letter is pretty damning. Generally, it's not damning of him personally. This is, he doesn't call him insane and stupid. He just says, you have adopted a policy of appeasing Russia and China and whoever else he says, it wasn't China, but somebody else that he says he was appeasing,
China too,
and attacking our allies. It's basically a critique that any normal person would have of Trump's foreign policy, such as it is.
Yes.
But, it comes from Mattis, and now Maggie Haberman can't play stupid.
Don't count her out.
Don't count her out. Today she didn't play stupid.
Okay.
Tomorrow I'm sure that she'll get leaks from Jared and Ivanka behind the scenes being very much against it or something.
They're privately appalled.
They're privately appalled, right? That's the phrase. It's chaos. It's always been chaos, but now it's undeniable chaos. And all these things put together and a shutdown that will, unless Trump just caves completely, which I guess is possible, you're going to be at January 3rd. There's going to be Speaker Pelosi. Then what? I don't know how Trump gets out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll have to see. I guess he plays it by ear at that point. And I don't know, declares victory.
Yeah,
I mean, we beat ISIS yesterday. I suppose he could win anything.
Yeah, but then we did beat ISIS.
Well, that's just reality. Who cares?
Yeah, but, I mean, he in his tweets, on his timeline. Now it's up to Russia and Syria and Iran to fight ISIS.
Yes, Iran would probably fight ISIS.
Well, I
if
mean,
they had the opportunity. They don't want the
Assad
opportunity.
is fighting ISIS, and I guess Russia's fighting ISIS. It's true in a sense, but we defeated ISIS.
I don't know what they're fighting.
Listen,
They're
the
just
guy's an
cleaning
idiot,
up.
and he's not well, and we're not analyzing this. I am anyway, conventionally, but it's a dangerous moment. It's going to be a dangerous 2 years. Let's put it that way, because it's closing in. We're not even talking about what Mueller might do. I mean, there was a crazy report yesterday, which I actually don't believe, from Ken Delanian that says he thinks Mueller's going to wrap up by the end of February. It's like, I don't know how he can do that. He's actually got a hearing in March on the Manafort thing. So how's he going to wrap it up? What are you talking about?
That's...
The last thing he's going to do is issue the report if that's what he's going to do. Right? He hasn't done anything with Stone. He clearly wants to indict Stone. So how could he be wrapping it up? What are you talking about? Makes no sense.
I guess he had that written, and it's
no,
vacation
he said
time.
He had sources and yada yada, but
well,
Mueller doesn't leak, so I don't know what sources he could possibly have.
Giuliani is a source. He is.
I don't know who his source is, unless he thinks they're getting it from Whitaker or people around Whitaker.
Sure. I don't know. Could be anything. I don't know. So he wants to say that. Great.
Right. Now, to go back to your original point of Whitaker shutting him down, in that sense, the recusal or non-recusal decision is obviously very important, because if he was recused, he couldn't make any declarations of being essential or non-essential. That would be left to Rosenstein or Rosenstein. I forget.
I think we're going to Rosenstein these days.
Okay, we're back to Rosenstein, the reality is that it's pretty outrageous. But I assume, and I heard Jerry Nadler say that he's called Whitaker. He and Cummings are going to hold a joint hearing with Whitaker in January, but already Whitaker's hemming and hawing and saying, well, I don't have any dates. Okay. Says, all right, well, how about this little subpoena? And you will come up here. And then, but of course they subpoenaed Holder and they went to court, but Holder law, I forget the whole thing. But at any rate, I'm not sure on what basis Whitaker doesn't go to testify does he run out the clock till his actingness ends? But he's got a long way to go. It's 270 days. And I think we've only done like 30. So it's still half a year at least. So, but of course, Barr's coming up. When do they take up the Barr nomination?
I don't know. I don't know whether they ever get around to it or not. It depends. He's now got, there's an issue that in normal times would stand in his way, but won't with a Republican Senate.
Right, exactly. He'll get the votes. He'll be confirmed Attorney General, and he won't recuse. But again, all those things are fascinating. At the end of the day, I've always expected that Mueller would get shut down, get fired. In some ways, I'm surprised he's lasted this long. And to be honest with you, if I was an evil person working for Trump, I would have told him to fire Mueller last year. And they said, well, don't do it before the election. Well,
right.
What's
the difference?
What difference is it going to make? You might as well get him off your plate and deal with it, and then 2 weeks later, people will forget.
That's probably, I didn't really consider that what had Trump furious about the outcome of the election wasn't so much that lots of Republicans lost and he lost control of the House of Representatives. He might not care about that because he doesn't know how government works and he's just going to do it his way anyway. It may have been, you told me not to fire Mueller so that I wouldn't lose the election, and then I lost the election. I should have fired Mueller. At least I would have lost the election as I did anyway, and at least I'd be rid of Mueller. You people are crazy.
I would have told them that, actually. I mean, as I said, if I had been an evil advisor, if I had been Steve Miller with spray paint hair, I would have said, Mr. President, these people are just full of it. You need to fire them immediately.
Yeah.
Alan Dershowitz said you can do it.
Yeah. So go ahead and do it. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't counsel him that way. Maybe somebody did.
I bet you Lewandowski and Bossie probably did, but he thinks
Mattis
they're low lives, and they are. So he wanted the respect of the non-openly low lives around him. So I don't know.
Well, other weird looming stories, I guess, that are out there. I did see briefly on Twitter this morning that Trump is now already souring on Mick Mulvaney because he saw on Twitter the video that everyone was circulating of him, I guess, during the primaries, saying, "Oh, well, Trump is a terrible human being, but I'll end up supporting him anyway because he's going to win the nomination, and he'll be the Republican candidate for president. So I'm just getting used to it." So now he's like, great vetting, by the way. The video was out there, but he missed it the whole time. He didn't see it.
Kellyanne Conway said it, so why?
That doesn't bother him. But Kellyanne Conway may or may not, have other ways of making up for things that aren't. Well, I don't want to.
She fooled them anyway.
Yes, she's very sweet. She's got it. She's got the disposition he prefers. Mick Mulvaney isn't going to be. He'll be deferential, but it's not. I don't mean to say. I mean, it might be true, but I don't know. But it's wrong to suggest that it's actually actually something as simple as sexual. I think there's something about being submissive to him as a female that doesn't work for men.
I understood what you meant.
Yeah, because as horrible a human being as she is, and despite the fact that it may actually be true that she provides sexual favors for him, I don't know that that's the case, and it's bad to say about women, even women who are horrible. So I don't mean that, honestly.
I doubt it, just to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I don't know that Trump is interested in that. It doesn't matter. The point is, I really think that if the same words coming out of a blonde woman's mouth with whom he has no genuine interest sexually is received and understood differently by Donald Trump and his lizard brain than Mick Mulvaney saying the same thing.
That's exactly what I understood you to be saying.
Okay, well that's good because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
No, I took it that
yeah.
way that she has a way of saying things
clear about
that
she's also very good at saying those things. I mean, besides the fact that she is female and that counts for something with Donald Trump, she is extraordinarily skilled at sounding like she means what she's saying, even when it's stupid.
She's the closest to Ari Fleischer in this.
That's why she's in communications for him. Right. Mick Mulvaney is not his communications director. Perhaps it's possible that even as a man, he would be able to pull this Jedi mind trick on Donald Trump, but he's not skilled in the way that she is. She's genuinely fantastic at being a liar for Donald Trump.
Right. And she certainly must be very good at lying to him in person. So in a way that he likes, I'm sure he loves to be lied to.
Apparently it works on George Conway too, because they're still married.
Well, I don't know what's going on there. That's a whole nother
I hope
discussion.
their house is huge.
Yes,
I think it is.
I'm sure it is. They make plenty of money. He's at
George Conway wants to build a wall in the house. That's what he wants.
Yeah, well, remember that was a pretty funny. That was a good article, a good interview of her, and she thought it was off the record and was on. So they've got their whole thing. But again, I guess today's interesting. The motion to proceed, just to focus on today, because it's hard to get sometimes to think past it, but it's not that long. I really do think there's not much for Democrats to even talk about till January 3rd. I mean, what do you do? You go vote against it? No, we're not doing it, and we'll see you January 3rd. Then we'll see where your head's at, Mr. President.
Government is going so what did you say? You counted 13 days, 12 days?
12 days if you don't count
till
today, right?
Okay, so till January 3rd, and government will be closed for...
Well, it closes tonight.
2 or 3 of them. Anyway, I mean, if there was no shutdown, the government would be closed for 2, possibly 3. I don't know whether they close for
they'll
Christmas
close New
Eve.
Year's, they'll close Christmas.
Or Christmas. So 2 out of the 12 at the minimum, maybe 3.
And then the weekends, of course. Well, I guess the parks are going to be closed. I guess the parks are the things that people will feel.
Yes,
otherwise, the government offices aren't open on the weekends. No one's going to get a passport on.
And this was always, what's his name? Newt Gingrich's theory on government shutdowns originally was that people won't even notice because government is so dumb and doesn't do anything for them.
Right, and that's obviously wrong. The other problem, I guess, if I remind me if I'm wrong here, that the Social Security checks don't go out.
Vox says they will. And I think generally the current practice has been to say, all right, Social Security Administration, Medicare, essential. Medicaid are essential. And so that was not always the case, but when it struck Republicans and Democrats, I'm sure that it was, they changed that.
How is it that by declaring something essential, it doesn't require Congress to act?
Don't know. I mean, by statute, Congress said, these things can be declared essential, I guess, or I don't know. I don't know whether it's by statute or not. And no one has
I assume it is by
challenged
statute,
it.
But I still don't understand.
It may just be regulation, and no one wants to challenge it.
And if we don't appropriate, we're still appropriating. I mean, that doesn't seem constitutional.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be. I don't know what. If you want to do it statutorily, I guess you could put it under like what is it? There's like the Deficiency Act which is a great name, but I think there's essentially like basically forage law, that it's okay during emergencies and government shutdowns to the authority is vested in But there's a government deficiency act or something like that. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I guess it's something like that. I still don't. Obviously, no one's going to ever challenge the constitutionality, but it sounds a little hinky to me.
Anti-Deficiency Act. That would be a better name for it. It is the name, actually. But
at any rate, the government, 72% of the government continues to be funded. By the way, that is the number, right? Is that what Vox says?
I have not. I didn't get to the point where they put a number on it, but
I
maybe
think it's 72%, which means 28% is not. But it's the 28% for people who actually need stuff like SNAP and
well, that's getting decimated anyway. But
right. Well, that's by the way, that's another thing you could throw in the wish list if you decide you're going to deal with Trump after January 3rd. Roll back those attempts to keep people from eating.
Yeah.
Stop trying to starve people.
Yeah. That would be a nice thing to do.
I just think McConnell will go nuts, and there'll be a revolt in the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus, but the Freedom Caucus has nothing to say to it anymore anyway. So, he has to deal. I mean, he just doesn't get his. Again, he really wants this $5 billion, right? And no one agrees with me yet, but I hope someone starts just to think about it a little more clearly. To me, I would spend 12 days thinking about what I want to give him this $5 billion.
I guess.
And I'd make a long list. You tell Mitch McConnell to bring to the floor our spending bill that's going to include 1 through 15.
Yeah.
And one of the 15 will be your border money or your wall money.
Mm-hmm.
And if he passes it and you sign it, we got a deal.
I guess. Be sure to attach a note that Obama would never have dared to fund these priorities. But you will. Whatever you need to say.
Actually, just talk about what a great negotiator you are. At that point, in some respects, maybe you have Pelosi take a bullet a little bit and say the president has negotiated in good faith and we appreciate it and this is how government should work.
Yeah.
Some nonsense like that. But then you get all these things that you want.
We just went through that exercise, I think, on the criminal justice, the so-called criminal justice reform bill. Everybody, you're so good. Right.
And they did it once before in the first year, 2017, on a funding bill. They went, and apparently they really rolled them, and the Republicans were furious because they got a lot of what they wanted out of them. And, I don't know how they did it, but whatever worked then.
Yeah,
maybe
I guess.
do it again.
That's true. And then,
$5 billion for a stupid wall is hard to swallow. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's a small price to pay. I mean, the reality is $5 billion is going to build what? 2 miles of wall?
There is that problem. And as they were pointing out, now that people are donating to GoFundMe to
$11 million they're up to
build the wall. All right. And now I don't know.
It'll take 50 years to fund the wall at this point.
And is GoFundMe one of those places where you don't have to actually give up the money until the goal is reached? And the goal is $1 billion, so I don't know that they ever get there.
What does $1 billion get you?
Well, right, nothing. So I mean, but it may if they got 11 million, they have only 989 million more to go to hit the goal before anybody has to part with any cash. So this is a free stunt. Nobody's losing money. I think if GoFundMe works like that, I'm not positive that it does.
I don't know. I've seen
if it doesn't arrest the guy who's doing it because he's totally stealing that money.
Well, apparently he's a crook from before.
Yes, right. That's true. I forgot.
Yeah,
that's in the pocket,
I think
too.
there was one GoFundMe where there's a lawsuit ensued because someone did a GoFundMe supposedly for their kids, but then they didn't actually do it. It was like a scam, and they spent the money, and they went on traveling.
I'm doing that right now. I'm going to open one. If that guy gets the money, I'm doing it. And,
let's fund the government through my GoFundMe. Yeah. Let's show Trump.
I need
that would be our equivalent, right?
Right.
But what people would do on our side, they would not give us 2 cents.
Right.
So because they're not idiots.
Well, yes. Although I think the first one out of the gate with an actual response was somebody who started was it the on Twitter, the horse whisperer guy. Hoarse, who started a GoFundMe to buy ladders to climb over the wall. And I think he raised a couple $1,000s too. I don't know what happens to the money. I would be curious to find out, so that I could steal
that's a project. We should figure that one out.
Yeah.
To see if there's if it's worthwhile to do.
I'm only barely able to get people to fund the radio show, so maybe if it was something dumber, I would get more money. My problem is offering a quality product.
Maybe we should do a once a year GoFundMe for the radio show, but that's something we should talk about offline.
Yes, right. Which we'll have a chance to do in a minute. But let's talk about other things. There are a couple other things. Well, there's a million other things we got to. Major stories that you are probably at home tearing your hair out that we haven't mentioned yet, because that's how much happened yesterday, because it was a year. And we just got finished, of course, saying, oh, my God, the day before yesterday was so outrageous. How are we ever going to catch up? And that was only because Tuesday was such a disaster. And then Monday, though, was record-breaking before that. That's the way this whole thing seems to work. It's a little weird, to say the least.
I agree with that, but yesterday was something, though. You got to say.
Yeah, definitely record-breaking for sure.
It was. How would I put it? It was a day that started with everybody's leaving town. Bob Corker, of course, was the character of the day, with just laughing at everybody, saying, all right, I don't
Brian
know what you guys are gonna
Schatz.
do. I'm going to Chattanooga.
Yeah, he says he's driving, too, which is a good idea because he may have to turn around. But Brian Schatz turned around. He flew home to Hawaii. He landed in Honolulu and then bought a ticket, turned around, and went back. That is so. That's literally, actually, honest to God, happening. Haven't gotten yet to Nikki Haley declaring that she isn't so sure that the United States should remain in the United Nations, which is going to present a rent problem.
Yeah, she was one of the grown-ups there.
There you go. Right. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We should get out of the UN as well. And a million other things to catch up on. We got to take a 1-minute break because one time or another we imposed this on ourselves, and now we think it's good practice.
It's good. It gives us a little break.
Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We've had 1 minute to try and recap yesterday just for our own organizational purposes, and it's not working.
Wasn't enough.
Yeah, we needed like 30 minutes to do. So we were talking through the timeline of what happened yesterday. You started off Wednesday evening, saying the president.
Wednesday evening, there was a tweet. I remember Cornyn and McConnell were told reporters the president will sign a clean CR.
Okay, right, yeah.
And then the morning started, and Limbaugh and Coulter that same night were going off after that was said.
Yeah, can't believe.
And then the morning started that the House of Representatives was like they were waiting for a tweet from Trump before they were going to vote.
Right.
You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
It seems like ancient history, but it was yesterday morning. They were waiting for a tweet from Trump to get the go-ahead.
Which is crazy because government by tweet. Government by unsecured phone tweet. P.S. Just throw that in there.
Yes.
And
then, the tweet didn't come. Instead, a summons was delivered. To Paul Ryan and
right.
and
Trump wanted to have lunch.
Who do you bring with you?
Yeah,
Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan or somebody like that. Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan.
Okay, what do we need? Jim Jordan to stand outside and be a lookout?
To bring them with him.
Okay.
So they go up, and right about noon, a few minutes after, Ryan walks out and says, President won't sign the bill. Understandably, he won't sign the bill. So we're going to go pass this other thing. And they went and whipped votes, and I guess they told people they have to come back because we're voting on something different or whatever. And I guess last night at some point they passed whatever thing they passed.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. Last night
while we were waiting for that House vote, not really waiting, we didn't care. It didn't matter. Again, didn't matter one way or the other how that vote went. Mattis resigned. It started with Trump tweeting, I think around 5 p.m. or 5:30, somewhere around that time, that Mattis was retiring. It was a very flowery tweet. He's a patriot, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. And no one believed that story, but we didn't think we'd know. And then that Mattis's letter drops during. No, actually, it must have been at 5 because it was during Chuck Todd's show, and Chuck Todd basically turned white when he heard about Mattis, and then Mattis's letter came out.
Mm.
And literally, Chuck Todd's hair was not literally, obviously, because if his hair was on fire, that would have been good TV.
Yeah, I would have watched.
And he has boring TV, but anyway, he was ashen. I've actually never seen him that shaken up on TV, which says something about him because he should have been shaken up a lot more than he's been.
That's how I looked when I realized we had an electoral college.
Right. So then, it's 3 hours of Mattis going, Mattis, and then all night Mattis, basically. We'd forgotten about the shutdown until this morning. Trump didn't want people talking about Mattis, so he started tweeting about the shutdown.
Yeah.
And it worked. And we're not talking so much about Mattis. We're talking about the shutdown again.
Yeah, that's true. Although
it's a bully pulpit. You can't deny it.
Right. And so it's working. I don't know that Mattis matters as much. Everybody, I don't know. It was the favorite thing to say on TV. Oh, he's the one keeping the crazy from happening, and they did report that story. But he's not preventing a whole lot of crazy. And by the way, also last night was all tweets and comments about how stable and grown up Mattis is, and how honorable, etc. And reading his letter and all this. Meanwhile, our brave cabinet 25th Amendmenting themselves one at a time. They're self 25th Amendmenting.
That's actually a very good point, and I think it's worth taking a moment to discuss, because if you're going to resign, it's good that you do it the way Mattis did it. If you've made that decision, these quiet, I'm going, thank you, Mr. President, for whatever nonsense is for the birds. I mean, if you're resigning in protest, you got to protest. All right, Gary Cohn, you don't get a pass because you actually didn't do anything. You just left and went back to Goldman Sachs, and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars again. You did nothing. Mm-hmm. You got your tax cut, so now you're even richer. And so forget about all that. But if you pick that, but is resigning necessarily as defensible as that? Why isn't it better to stay in there and just go make speech? You can do it politely without challenging him. Just say, while the president has made this decision, I disagree. I think this is a mistake, but he's the president of the United States, and I urge the Congress to consider whether it should take up this matter, and let him fire you.
Yeah, I guess so. Why not?
I don't know if he would. Now, here's the other weird thing.
He needs a chief of staff to do it.
He's leaving in February.
Yes,
yeah, now,
that's true too.
What is that? He's going to spend 2 months doing this while he said the president is crazy and awful?
Yes. The only thing I can think of here, in the context of the 25th Amendment thing, seriously, how many now ex-cabinet members do we have? It may not be enough, but how many do we have that are on record saying, or whatever, or even rumored to have said the president is an idiot, he's a moron, he's a petulant child, etc.? We know Tillerson said it. Mattis has said it. I don't know that Zinke, who's now gone, hasn't said it, I don't think, but he doesn't. Who cares? Secretary of the Interior. But how many have we got? Because as I was thinking, as we always are thinking, about the 25th Amendment and how they're one at a time self-deporting from the cabinet, and maybe this is a good reason to stay until February, except for the fact that so many of the others are gone. If you had collected all the cabinet members and ex-cabinet members who are willing to say, yeah, the president is dumb, crazy, incompetent, if you kept them all in one place and said, sign this, you've 25th Amendmented this bum. But no, instead, one at a time, they leave and get replaced by somebody who has 6 months to burn before they're ready to admit this. And you're staggering the cabinet now only 1/3 of the current cabinet thinks he's crazy and in need of replacement. The other 2/3 are either Elaine Chao, the mute, who has nothing to say about anything because she's going to get killed if,
What does
McConnell
she
doesn't
do?
it. I don't know.
She's Secretary of Labor?
Oh, no, she was once. She's now secretary, not in this administration. She's Secretary of Transportation because her family owns shipping.
What does she do again then? I mean, what does she do? I
Transportation.
mean, does she do anything?
No, she just.
Ben Carson doesn't
she's a
do
hostage. That's what she does. She sits there and has to look at a cup of polonium tea 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and lest Mitch McConnell not deliver. I don't know what she does. Nothing. Secretary of Transportation.
I mean, it's not like I don't know what the Secretary of Transportation.
Well, I know they do things. I don't know if she does.
It's a job, I guess. I just don't know what the job is, and then this administration, who knows what they even do? I mean, literally, we know this is a real literal. We know Ben Carson does nothing.
Yes, he wastes wall money on
furniture and new doors and stuff.
Yes, wish we could pile that furniture up as a wall. Could have used it.
That's right.
He literally.
What did he do? He
stole
replaced
from
the
wall.
doors. I forget what
That was Zinke.
Oh, that was Zinke with the doors. But Carson did something. Did he buy furniture? He
Maybe.
bought furniture.
I'm
something.
sure.
His wife. He blamed it on his wife.
Oh yeah.
The classic defense. My wife,
My wife.
She doesn't
she
understand
buys
the value of a dollar.
Oh God.
God.
All right. Well. What I was. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention. I guess was also we didn't spend that much time on Syria and the withdrawal because maybe because people are like, well, good in a way, except for the methodology.
I can take the side of why an orderly withdrawal from Syria was the right thing to do.
Yeah, an orderly withdrawal, yeah, terrific. I'm for that. This one was disorderly, but again, who cares? 2,000 troops, you don't need that much order, I guess. The only thing that worried me about the withdrawal, the part that actually worried me was the one that got the least amount of attention, which I think is the biggest tell. Lots of people are still debating, even on the progressive side. Well, there's that faction that says you guys blame everything on Russia. Now we're leaving a stupid war. That's a good thing, and you're blaming it on Russia. Where does that come from? And actually, the biggest, not mystery, but the biggest tell, as far as I can see, in that I can't really explain it away, is part of the order involved the now, starting tonight at midnight, shuttered State Department. Part of the order was you've got 24 hours to evacuate the country. State Department personnel have 24 hours to leave Syria. Who puts it that way? You've got 24 hours to blah, blah, blah. And the answer to that is the enemy puts it that way. You have 24 hours to give up the fort. You've got 24 hours to leave the country. Your own State Department personnel aren't ordered out that way unless, A, they are taking helicopter off the roof, like in Vietnam. And it's not that I'm ordering you out of the country. I'm saying abandon ship. We've lost the place. But since we won, that can't be it. And the other answer is the enemy lays out the line that you have 24 hours to remove your personnel, i.e., I don't know, pick your enemy. Was it Turkey? Was it Assad? Was it Putin? The United States president doesn't tell his own State Department personnel, you got 24 hours to get your sorry ass out of this country. Somebody who, you want to know who drove that decision? It has to be somebody who would give that order. And the American president, doesn't. Now, he may not be American. I don't know where he was born. I haven't seen his birth certificate. But you tell me how it comes to pass that a United States president issues a 24-hour ultimatum to his own State Department. Or what? The 2,000 troops there aren't going to protect their retreat? They're fired? They're killed? You turn them over to Turkey? What?
Well, I don't know. And it's why this is reprehensible. I mean, the troops, as I understand it, one of their main functions has been to protect refugees, in fact, I've heard the number of 50,000 refugees who are being protected. And you're in essence saying Assad can go kill them. And then you're also saying on the other side of the equation, and in fact, I think you said this just now, that Turkey has said they're going to go kill the Kurds.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about that yesterday, and lots of people are afraid that that is going to happen, and that's what Turkey does. They kill Kurds. That's their big prevailing interest in all this. Mexico will protect the Kurds. They killed
all the Armenians. Now they're going to kill the Turks. That's a terrible joke. I apologize. Sorry.
I mean, they did kill them.
They did.
That's a historical recitation.
And it's just shameless. I mean, it really is. And you know, as you said, a guy like Lindsey Graham, who before Trump fancied himself a disciple of John McCain or whatever the heck he...
Yeah, right. He's being recognized more and more these days, by the way, John McCain.
What?
John McCain is a person who's done a terrific job and is being recognized more and more these days. Katrina Pearson.
Yes, I was going to mention the Katrina Pearson. She's been trying to reach him, and he's stonewalling her.
You've reached the office of John McCain.
He won't answer any questions.
Yeah, right. And his daughter's on The View, so she's busy. You could ask her. Cindy might answer.
Listen, Katrina Pearson's stupid. Is she that stupid, or was that something she did on purpose, you think?
I don't know. I don't know. She may have missed the whole thing.
She may miss the funeral for a week and all that? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't get as many days as Bush. He wasn't president. Our flag's still down. What day is this?
Is it really?
Yeah, the flags around here are still down, unless somebody else died. Isn't that over?
It must be Bush related. Or it could be our country died, and we're just finding out. I just can't imagine what goes through her mind. But she was one of the first Trumpettes. Remember? I think they ended up disassociating her somehow. I don't know.
Who? I forgot who we were talking about already.
Katrina Pearson.
Oh, yes, right. She's forgettable.
She was one of the original Trumpettes.
Yeah, she was, and she originally came to us. She was a Tea Party grifter.
Oh, is that right?
Is her original MO? Well, I mean, yes, she's one of about half a dozen people who were destitute, and for some reason, I guess this is the fallback position, maybe in their rural areas. And I mean, it's a serious thing. I guess you have no work. She was cleaning houses, which okay, make ends meet, and then the Tea Party thing started, and then she realized
she was from England. What?
No,
did I miss something?
I don't think she's English. No, she is one of the first round of people who realized somebody else was the groundbreaker on this. I think that you could, because the Tea Party wasn't a thing and nobody owned it, which is a crime in this country. They realized, I can trademark Tea Party something, put that on the end, and then I can go around on the internet, because no one knows anything about what happens on the internet, and raise money for the I think she might have been the Tea Party Express, which is funny, because I was wondering where they came up with that name. They didn't have a vehicle or anything that they drove around in, I don't think. It was just like Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express. Like, that's different. So I'm going to Pizza Hut Express, Tea Party Express. You can find me at the airport and get it to go. And so she just started, but there was Tea Party Patriots, Tea Party Express, a couple other Tea Party somethings, and you put up a GoFundMe page. I don't know what people were using at the time. And you just start soliciting donations online, and you use the money to pay for you to travel to Tea Party rallies and yell. But you travel first class, or maybe even on charter jet, and you essentially. So she began paying herself a $400,000 salary out of the money she was raising, and then she signed on. I think she was for somebody else, like all the people who are somehow still around in the administration. They were all for Ted Cruz or Rick Santorum or whoever originally, and then they got clobbered, and they became Trump people. And that's how Katrina Pearson was one of like 4 people too dumb to get an administration job at
Yes.
the end of this.
Yes, I do remember that.
And then, but they did park her. She parked herself in the lobby of the Trump Hotel until they gave her a job to get her out of there. Don't you have anything to do? Get out of here. So they made her the director of one of the super PACs, and now she's out there doing that.
She parked herself in the hotel. I'm not leaving till you give me a job.
Right. And everybody's like, oh my God, this idiot. She's bugging the hell out of me. Please just
The
start a
Saudis
super
don't
PAC.
like her here.
Right. So Mercer's, can I have $1 million? And I'm going to start a super PAC, and she'll be the director of it. She'll live off the $1 million. She'll get her stupid ass out of here. And we can do some lobbying, for Christ's sake. She's interrupting everything.
We know we're laughing at Katrina Pearson, but how different is she really from Donald Trump?
I don't know.
I mean, he ran every business he had into the ground.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, he started with more money.
He started Trump University to scam people. How different is that than the Tea Party Express?
Yes.
Not much. And it's an entire family of grifters that grifted the entire country, and now he sells, room. By the way, January 3rd, my first order of business, David, is to remind you that the Democrats need to open an investigation into the GSA allowing the Trump hotel lease.
Yeah, well, I hope they will do that. That was, that's a pet peeve, but was the canary in the coal mine, really, where they were just in terms of like, what if the rule? Okay, we're doomed. These laws, these rules are ironclad. We just can't get around this. We're going to have to just write a letter that says none of this is true, or I am going to use my discretion to say I interpret this to mean the opposite of what it says. And then once that was it, then everybody just said, all right, let's just do that for everything.
Look at Trump. The Democrats now own the shutdown. 10:07 a.m.
I made a great deal, and I own the shutdown. I didn't pay a dime, and I own it. That's business, ladies and gentlemen. I'm smarter than he is. You see?
Yes.
So,
well,
whatever.
He's a better grifter than you, though.
Yes, that's true. I don't have the guts to do the things that he does. And we're going to spend the morning doing this.
Daddy giving you $30 million to start either.
Right.
So.
Well, that's good grift if you can get it. So now all of us who are smart, good progressives will spend the morning tweeting Donald Trump's new tweet that says the Democrats now own the shutdown side by side with his quote from Pelosi meeting, and he'll have lunch and a Diet Coke, and the government will be shut. And you know what? Tomorrow, the New York Times will tell you the Democrats shut the government down.
The New York Times might. Anyway, the quote, just for reference, from his meeting with Pelosi and Schumer. This is Trump talking. You want to know something? I'll tell you what. I'm proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it.
I am going to blame you for it. This has been another episode of How to Read a Trump Comment, trademark, 2018.
Narrator. He blamed them for it. Right?
Yeah, right. I should have put this all together as a thread. If you ever, now you got to
you
search.
Should do like Gertz does.
Yeah, I didn't thread. I threaded the ones about every time he fails to get a thing done by getting killed in court, but I have never threaded this has been another episode. How to read a Trump comment. Now everything he says, I'm not going to blame you for it. He will blame you for it. Boom. How to read a Trump comment. He's going to blame you for it. 48 hours later, or I don't know how much it is, 72 hours. It's a matter of hours and not days. I blame you because I don't see why you wouldn't blame us, because that's good politics to blame. It's not true, but it's politics and it's good.
Yeah,
meanwhile,
but, they got him on tape, on TV. I mean,
sure you do. Yeah, right.
I mean, I just don't think he can be the guy to blame them myself. Anyway, the the other tweet that's gotten a lot of attention this morning because it's a classic in the Trump genre was the one he sent at 6:58 a.m. this morning about and it read, the Democrats are trying to belittle the concept of a wall, calling it old-fashioned. The fact is there's nothing else okay, that will work. And that has been true for thousands of years. What? Okay.
So then they are old-fashioned.
It's like the wheel. There is nothing better.
It is
like the wheel. Yeah. Nothing better. Mm-hmm. I know tech better than anyone, and technology. He knows
tech and technology.
Yes.
Wow, both. That's good.
He knows
technology better than everyone. We learned. We dug up a tape the other day. I didn't dig up. So the American people, dug up a tape the other day. I know campaign finance better than anybody else. Now, of course, pleading ignorance on campaign finance. I know everything. I could know everything there is to know about nuclear missiles in an hour and a half. Everything. He just claims mastery of everything.
And this is one of the reasons why I hate the New York Times.
Okay.
Because among other things that they're wrong about, the way Maggie Haberman led this notion of there's a way to read Trump's and not see him as a buffoon, mentally ill, and all these things. Like there was method to his madness, that he's thinking these things through. He's not. And actual reporters who get people say, you know what, he's exactly this stupid and insane in private. I mean, it's not that he's somebody else. He's playing a persona on Twitter or on TV. That's who he is. Yes. And they tried to say, Maggie Haberman in particular, no, you don't understand. He's really got a way that this is how he gets his way. It's like, no, it isn't. It's just him being crazy.
I mean, there have been theories since before Trump. I mean, going back, I guess, to Dick Cheney, the madman theory. Like,
but he's a real madman. He's not faking.
and that's where that's what I call the madness of King George paradox, right?
Yes.
You don't know how to treat.
Sometimes the madman is just a madman.
Yeah, sometimes he isn't, and other times, like the great scene that always I come back to in that from that movie anyway is the one in which the king himself realizes the paradox of treating mental illness like you ordinarily you run into somebody who insists, I am the King of England. Well, obviously, you're crazy, and we have to work on your mental illness. But what do you do when the King of England is mentally ill and declares himself King of England? And your usual escape route of, well, there you go. You've just proven that you're crazy and we need to do something about it. Somebody who's mentally ill and is skeptical about their need for treatment, even though they declare themselves the King of England, but that's problematic because you're the King of England, creates a weird paradox. And it's where we're operating in that constitutional gray area where we keep reminding you on this show, if you're crazy or brave enough or craven enough, you can claim almost anything you want under our constitutional system, and it's up to everybody else to prove you wrong. And if there's a political hiccup somewhere in there whereby somebody says, the path of least resistance is to let you be right, you become right. And then every president thereafter gets to do the same stupid thing, and nobody asks questions about it. And that's problematic in our system. And the thing our system was never designed to handle is, what if there was somebody who was like that 24/7 on everything? What would be left of the presidency and the Constitution when they were done if you didn't erase them from history by impeaching them and warning everybody that anybody who steps close to this again will face the same fate? And the answer is nothing. And have a good weekend, everybody. But there you go. I don't know, it was a little bit of a wandering description here, but that's...
No, you're right. I mean, and it's really the only way to take it is it almost taking that approach, because let's face it, we've gone through the looking glass, so we almost have to. What's we're looking at through those funhouse mirrors. I mean, so you've got to unravel it that way.
I was waiting. I'm waiting. Where's my music come from? We're a little bit late on this, but we're got to take our last break. But yes, through the looking glass. I'm sorry. You can complete your thought here. I just ruined it with the music.
No, my thought was simply that's why you have to take these unorthodox paths to discussing issues, because we're not treating a madman as we should.
Hi, everybody. It's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com, and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. The music is at a different point here. That's going to create editing problems later, but I got to move where I place all these different song and music clips in my soundboard. I've made this mistake before, so I'm going to get rid of that. All right.
I thought maybe we'd play a little for the first part of our last segment. Play a little bit of where in the Constitution does it say?
Okay. Yes. Show me in the Constitution where it says.
Show me in the Constitution,
I have it here.
David, where it says the president can't be indicted.
It is right here next to, and just like the operations book.
It's in a 1999 OLC memo.
Oh, that's a great part of the Constitution. My favorite.
The founders clearly anticipated that in 1999 the OLC would write a memo saying the president can't be indicted.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
Oh.
And the idea of it is actually pretty inconsistent with the creation of the Constitution and the fact that there was a revolution against a king.
The same crazy one we were just talking about, as a matter of fact. Which
That's
is
right.
another sort of weird thing. Well,
right.
We should have a revolution because... Interesting. Even from the founding of this country, our brave patriots weren't willing to say we are declaring independence because the king is insane, as opposed to, well, we have inalienable rights and blah, blah, blah. They had to come up with something New York Times worthy to have a revolution, as opposed to, he's nuts, he's crazy, we shouldn't be listening to him, he's a moron, he paints his face orange, he painted his face white. He's an insane kook, and the British all know it. And they're not going to come and fight to save these colonies, as it turns out. They didn't. They sent Germans to do it,
right?
Generally speaking. Hessians.
Right. So where does this notion that you can't indict the president come from? By the way, you saw the story of how in 1875, I think it was, Ulysses S. Grant was was arrested for speeding on his horse.
Yes, but he didn't show up for court, so it's all moot. Speeding on his horse.
He was arrested.
Yes,
and for speeding on his horse, which is a great story.
Right.
At any rate,
by a black cop.
It's really not. There's nothing in the Federalist Papers that supports this notion. The unitary executive theory is just as easily is also built out of whole cloth, because it really isn't the conception of it either. The three branches of government, the executive, the legislative, and are co-equal, but
judicial
think of it this way. The president of the United States, in charge of the Justice Department, arrests congressmen all the time.
Yeah, it happens.
Chris Collins was arrested. The Hunter was arrested in the last election, and obviously there have been many Democrats who were arrested. Bob Menendez went to trial.
Yes.
He was a senator, and he was subject to not only being arrested by the executive, he was tried by the judiciary.
Yeah.
So how come you're a senator and you can be
yeah, I don't know.
You can be indicted and charged.
Limited liability for them. They are protected by the speech and debate clause. It's when they act outside of the scope of their duties in an illegal manner. I don't know why that can't happen. Oh, it did happen actually. It didn't. Well, originally I guess the OLC thing, the 1999 one, even had its roots earlier. I guess probably Watergate time, when the broader theory was you can't bother the guy. No bothering the president. He has to think about national security.
Right, and no bothering the president. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what? He killed somebody on Fifth Avenue. Don't bother him. He's thinking about national security.
Right. He didn't have time to make up his mind properly. You can't bother him. And then that went out the window with Bill Clinton. And then it was, okay, in a civil setting you can bother the president, but not in a criminal setting.
Well, and also if you go back to Nixon versus the United States, at least you get to ask him questions and you can be a witness. And in fact, over history, the presidents have been witnesses and subpoenaed many times. There literally is nothing, and the structure of the Constitution doesn't really exempt it. And in fact, we have a saying that people love to say all the time, that we are a government of laws, not men, except if you're the president, apparently. No man is above the law, except if you're the president.
Yes. Right.
There's no real logic to it, but I can tell you where historically maybe where the thought comes from, because when there was a Roman Republic, when the certain offices were invalid, it would against the law even, to do them harm, obviously, but also to arrest them. And there was no real arrest back in the day. There was no district attorney who arrested people and put them in jail. It was actually sort of a private justice system that was built in, where you could pay a guy to bring a charge, or you bring a charge and you pay somebody to orate as to why this guy should be exiled or killed or whatever the punishment that was proper under the Roman law. But you couldn't do that to a consul of Rome. There were two consuls, and while they were in office, you could not bring these type of cases against them. But the term of office for a consul was 1 year at the time, and so we wait a year. No statute of limitations. You could get him once he was out of office, and off we go. So now with statutes of limitations and everything else that's entailed with it, unless, by the way, it should be tolled, right? Equitable tolling of the statute of limitations. If I can't indict you, that means the statute should continue to run. At least give me that.
I would think that would be a no-brainer, but I guess it isn't.
I think Clinton v. Jones might have addressed that, but I don't recall. Anyway, my bottom line is the only thing in Article 2 that could conceivably implicate the idea that you can't indict the president is, I would say, Article 4. Article 2, Section 4, which says the president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. And I guess you could imply, well, you don't get to put them in jail until they're taken out of office. But then why doesn't that apply to all civil officers of the United States?
I don't know, since it says...
And the vice president can be charged. Everybody agrees.
Yeah. That's, I guess, a creation of the modern national security state, where state security is something that you can wave at some judges and have them say, man, that's important. It must mean something. So I guess you're right. If we do the same thing for the president or vice president that we do for all civil officers, as it says we should. It doesn't just say other, it says all civil officers. Then why not for the president? And the answer is because the Russians might nuke us while we were doing it, and he wouldn't be able to counterattack, is essentially what it comes down to. Even though the vice president could handle it. I mean, especially now we have the 25th Amendment. If you arrest the president, declare him incapacitated. He's under arrest.
Exactly.
When he beats the rap, as he inevitably will, because he's done nothing wrong and is making America great again, and all Americans agree, then he should be fine. You got nothing to worry about. You'll prove your case in court. You'll be back. Mike Pence will step down because he's honest.
The thing is, it's not even the argument as presented and the way you're presenting it. It's not a principle. It's more of a discretionary. We think it's not good policy to arrest the president because the Russians might nuke us.
Right. Well, so then we won't do it very much. Don't worry. But that
my point is that's not constitutional. That's like, that's more like we shouldn't do it. Right. You shouldn't do it because it's not. The Constitution says you can't do it.
Just like you really shouldn't be in charge of the Mueller investigation, Matt Whitaker. You should recuse yourself. Well,
right.
I don't have to, so I'm not gonna. That's another of the stories we didn't actually address. The background of this. He spent all day, or the press spent all day yesterday saying, hey, guess what? The ethics panel says he doesn't have to recuse. And then it turns out the ethics panel said, you should recuse yourself. I can't prove you have to, but you should. Well, then I'm not gonna. And there's even more, actually, because there was a previous panel that says, no, you do have to recuse yourself. And he said, you're all fired. I need a new panel. As he fired, firing the parliamentarian until you get somebody who says 49 is a majority. He fired the panels until he got one that said, all right, well, you're immoral and going to hell if you don't recuse. But it's up to you if you want to go to hell. I want to go. All right. Nothing we can do.
Yeah. The idea, of course, it's fairly new. I mean, it's not like people said you can't charge. What was the last president who might have been? I mean, we know others have did things, and Nixon was pardoned, obviously, because he was no longer president. So I guess then he could be charged. But was the issue, can the president be arrested, brought up during Watergate? Well, he was an unindicted co-conspirator, so possibly they said, well, maybe he should have been indicted co-conspirator, but I don't know that was based on the notion that the Constitution prohibited. It's more like, you know what, that's a big thing, and maybe I shouldn't do it. I'll leave that to the political processes. It's not like there's this blanket you can't do it. By the way, I actually do think there is an argument for saying hold back the prosecution if the president wishes until his term of office is over. You have the president, like every citizen, has a right to a speedy trial, right? And that's been determined to be 6 months, more or less, between charge and indictment, unless, what most often happens, the defendant waives his right to a speedy trial, and then they set it back, especially if he's free on bail. So the idea of it is simply this: the president can be charged, and if he thinks it's imprudent to go forward with his trial because he's the president, he can waive his speedy trial, and we'll wait to try you until you're no longer the president. Now, justice delayed, justice denied. He wins re-election. You're going to delay the trial for 6 years? I guess there's an argument for that. But just take the most simple concept: the president murders somebody. It could happen. People get killed all the time. I'm not talking about the president ordered bombing. I'm talking about he got mad in a bar fight and he pulled out a gun and he shot somebody.
Yes.
Andrew Jackson killed men in duels. Suppose he had done that when he was president. What do? We just say, no, it's okay. You're president. You can kill people. I mean, that's the logic of the idea that they're propounding, that the president can't be indicted.
Right. And I'm sure at the time that came up because that's the easiest objection to make. And the answer was likely, Yeah, but that would never happen.
Yeah, but that would never happen. Obviously, it's not an argument. Suppose it happens. What do we do?
But it would.
Suppose the president robs the bank.
Yes.
Suppose the president defrauds people with his condos because he's not just president now. He's maintaining his private business.
Suppose he collects emoluments from foreign governments.
Suppose he collects from foreign governments in exchange for policy favors.
Yes.
In essence, gets bribed by foreign countries.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they say here. It's with a capital, just like Trump would tweet it. B, bribery.
Right. Suppose the president causes the bribing of foreign officials to favor him for business opportunities in foreign countries. Mm-hmm. There's a law called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which it's almost certain that, for example, you may recall from the Michael Cohen story that they were going to give Putin a $50 million apartment in the Trump Tower, Moscow.
Which is a $10 apartment. Okay.
Whatever, 10, 70, whatever. They were going to give him an apartment.
They were going to tell him it was a $50 million apartment.
They were going to tell him it was a $50 million, and they were going to give it to him in order to get his approval for this project. That's a bribe. It violates almost certainly the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act if they had done it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the attempt, or if there was an attempt, and if there was, is the attempt sufficient? I think it is. My point being, he's the president. He did not separate himself from his businesses, and his businesses are basically criminal enterprises. What do we do? Don Corleone is elected president of the United States. Rather, Michael Corleone is elected president of the United States. You know, he's still involved in the olive oil business. What do we do?
What's a legitimate business, Armando? Yes, but he would have to separate himself from the olive oil part of it. Yeah, that's true. He should not be importing olive oil. You would think. So he puts the shares of Genco in a blind trust. I don't know. I mean, I guess, well, in reality, what happens now is you say, well, it's in a blind trust. Well, how can it be? It's a privately held corporation. And that's, what do you mean? I said it's in a blind trust. And everybody says, whoa, okay. You can't indict the president, and that's a blind trust.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I indict Fredo at least?
You can do whatever you want. You can kill Fredo and get away with it. So Michael Corleone is president. Yeah. What else? Okay. Is there a problem here?
Well, I'm just saying he's running an organized crime.
This is not a wild scenario either. I mean, this was Vito Corleone's original plan for Michael.
That's right.
That he was going to be
Senator Corleone.
Yeah.
President Corleone.
Right. He was thinking too small. That's the problem. But that's crazy because whatever, something, that would never happen. Kennedy. Okay, so anyway, moving on. A bootlegger's son, this president of the United States. But he was a good guy. He was a good bootlegger. He gave the people what he wanted. He's no different from John Boehner now, lobbying for legalization of marijuana. Let's think about it that way.
That's right. He was a bootlegger, and now he's...
it's harmless.
My point is,
people
you can't say that person can't be indicted.
Right.
President Michael Corleone runs an organized crime family. He can be indicted.
Yes, he should be indicted. The easiest solution is to say that he can't be and have everybody say, I don't know, man, OLC guys, you got to be smart to be in the OLC, so that must be something.
Yeah, really.
And that's that. Ordinarily, it's true. You got to be at the top of your class. It's okay.
What's funny is Barr, in that memo that Bill Barr wrote, he doesn't say the president can't be indicted.
Oh, wow, that's a problem.
He says there's this unitary executive, and you can't question the president's use of the presidential power. This goes to questions like, promising a pardon for false testimony, I suppose, firing the FBI director, things like that. Though, again, I don't think that's even tenable either. But for example, Nixon ordered IRS audits on people. In theory, if you're a unitary executive person, he can do that against his political enemies, right? It's part of the presidential power. So the only remedy there is what?
Impeachment.
Impeachment, but he's still not it's still not a crime because he's just exercising an Article 2 power.
Yeah, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be a crime to impeach him. So that I think that's the way they sort of justified the whole thing to themselves. Is well, there's no rules for us, but then ultimately there's no real rules for Congress either. If they impeach him, they impeach him. We have no appeal from that. Not that if it happened, they wouldn't have done just that and gone to court and said, "Look, you can't." They might have lost, but they would have gone and made that argument.
Hey, good. You know what I'll say?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, hey, Trump.
I had something go off there.
Okay.
But, I mean, we'll go around and around, and obviously Mueller's not going to decide whether the president's indicted. So it's going to go to who? Somebody in Trump's Justice Department. They're going to say you can't, and they'll cite the OLC opinion. And that'll be that for now. Now, what's interesting, of course, is at least on the campaign finance piece that's in SDNY, the statute of limitations will not expire if President Trump loses re-election, and they'll have around 10 months to charge him.
Mm-hmm. Unless he says, I'm still president regardless, in which case the courts have to throw their hands up and say, the Constitution appears to say his term has ended, but he appears to say it has not. Both sides will have to leave it there.
We'll just have to leave
Political
it there.
question. Sorry.
The other stuff, though, will probably have statute of limitations issues, and I'm not sure how it works. Now, I have one last question on this, and I'm sure you have other things that we want to do with the last 10 minutes, but here's my question. Why does the state of New York care what the OLC says?
I don't know if they really should have to. They shouldn't have to. I don't know if they would even be allowed to. I didn't think about that. There's no reason. That's direction for the federal government, and that's not me.
Yeah. Someone's going to have to rule in court I guess, state or federal. I don't know that they can remove the question. And maybe they would have to file a federal case to enjoin the state of New York from it, but from prosecuting him.
Well, yeah. What
but
are we prosecuting?
There's no reason why the state of New York can't prosecute him for any number of crimes that he clearly has committed.
Yeah, I mean,
under
I
New
guess
York
they wouldn't.
State criminal law.
Yeah,
he's committed criminal fraud.
Crimes.
I know for a fact.
Yeah.
You know, he is money laundered. I know, and that violates New York State criminal law too. He's obviously committed criminal violations of the New York not-for-profit law.
Yes, right.
And I don't know why Barbara Underwood, maybe she's leaving it for Letitia James to make those decisions. But you know what? I would love to see the New York Attorney General bring a criminal charge against the Trump organization, Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, the children for engaging in a criminal conspiracy.
And so was Jennifer Rubin. Love to say that. She wrote that the other day.
Yeah, I saw that she stole our idea. So the idea to me is, okay, we're charging all of you. Make your argument, make your legal argument, Mr. President, as to why you are immune. In the meantime, I'll keep prosecuting your children.
Yeah, I guess. Why not? I don't know what else to do. I don't see why. I mean, he would be looking for ways to...
What is wrong with that? It's not that I'm making up a crime. He's committed crimes.
Yes. There's no reason not to do it. I guess the answer to it from the White House would be...
I would agree to a plea bargain. I'd let everybody off if he resigned the presidency.
Okay. That's generous.
I know it is, but I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, for the good of the country. Come on, yeah, seriously.
I would urge the New York Attorney General to agree that if he resigns the presidency and leaves the country, we won't prosecute. He can go live in Moscow.
I will go one better. I would urge the Attorney General to make that deal, get him to resign, and then break the deal. And say, I'm prosecuting you anyway.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to prosecute you anyway.
Yeah, that's I would encourage that.
Or have the New York Attorney General resign and say, hey, that was the boss. You had no deal with me. I'm prosecuting.
Right. I think they should do that, absolutely. And then people would say, Oh my God, there's a chilling effect in doing that. Really? For all the presidents who resign under indictment from the state of New York, now none of them are going to make deals? Is that it? That's not a worry.
I don't know.
No, I mean,
anyway,
no one. How can anyone trust their word? They've never done it to anyone else. The only person they've done that to is Donald Trump. If you're Donald Trump, don't take any more deals from New York. Yes, that is the chilling effect. I am willing to take that.
Yeah, just leave the state. Get out of Dodge.
Right. Well, he can do that. He's not there now. He can stay out.
He can stay out. We don't want you back.
Yeah, get out and stay out.
Yeah. I know. Anyway, Joe McCarter just posted a pretty funny post. It's titled, Surprise, Trump administration totally not prepared to do a shutdown.
Oh, who did this?
Joan. She just posted this a few minutes ago.
I'll go grab that.
And you were asking if there are memos and people essential, not essential. Apparently, they don't know who's essential or not essential, and nobody's actually done anything. I think here's a quote that's very fun. At the operational level, our people have not been given instructions for how to wind down, says the policy director for the American Federation of Government Employees. Right now, everyone is just acting in a state of uncertainty. They were operating on the assumption that Trump was going to sign something. Oh, well.
Well, that's dumb.
So I don't know who's essential and who's not essential. Apparently, is not a clear question. I mean, clear answer to anybody.
There is a clear answer. I gave it to you at the opening of the show. Mueller is non-essential. This is
Other than him and everybody else,
he's winding down. Just like who has it reported? They said, I didn't tell you why he was actually winding down his investigation. It's because he's closed because the government's closed. You thought it was something else and high-minded.
The lady who didn't left out that part of it.
Right. He didn't know. He didn't read my tweet yet.
So it's a day where chaos reigns, which makes it like every other day, but
yes,
a little more so.
Yes, it is. And I regret to say we've come to the end of it, except I would love to have a break. But I do have to start to prepare some. Maybe now's the time to start recording things for next week, because we didn't even get to mention that the entire Treasury Department is also compromised. By the way, I wanted to make this point.
Yes.
Compromised in much the same, or maybe even exactly the same way that notorious international super spy Michael Flynn, as director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, compromised that unit and was summarily fired by Barack Obama and necessitating his entry into a life of crime. This is the same thing happening at the there's all sorts of details and weirdness. BuzzFeed News has the story. You'll have to read it with them. I may just go and read it now and record it and make it a Monday show. But
I want to hear you on Monday on that.
It's
that would
like
be a
just a den of spies. The whole place is corrupted from top to bottom. And I guess it would have happened during the Obama administration that this happened. So a little bit of a puzzling bit there. But, it was during the Obama administration that Michael Flynn turned into a spy, too, by illegally wiring the Defense Intelligence Agency's, I think, secure office with a unauthorized internet connection, which was explicitly prohibited by every single kind of counterintelligence protocol. He just didn't think that was a very smart thing, or he didn't want it to happen because then he couldn't export documents and make money, or whatever it was he was doing. So he didn't, because red tape is stupid and I'm in the army. Get out of my way.
And lock her up, by the way.
Yeah, right. And so now he's going to jail, the dummy. All right, so we didn't get back to that. There's plenty more on that. Occupy next week. Thank you, Armando. That was a great way to get through a Friday. That is, what would be the point of trying to do a normal show?
I don't know. I thought we were a little chaotic, but I thought it was appropriate.
Okay, I think so too. And I guess that's it. So we'll wrap it up. Everyone we love saying have a Merry Christmas, and thank God we can now say it. So everybody should do that. We'll be back on the air at some point in the middle of next week.
Winter
yes,
solstice
it is that as well. So get out and stare directly at the sun, which is what Donald Trump is doing.
Do have a great weekend, and I'll look forward to your shows next week.
All right. I might have to go tape one right now. Thanks, Armando. As for the rest of you, you're doomed to remain here in reality. And in fact, after I go off the air, that's where I will be stuck too. I will probably get on Twitter and find out what the hell's going on. And those of you who want the podcast posted will complain to me, rightfully so, that I should get my ass off Twitter and post it. But if you can't wait for more news, how about Justice Putnam and West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Nancy Pelosi, it turns out, was shaken at the news of the Mattis resignation, but she was stirred, get it, at the national prospects changing on January 3rd. We'll see how much they change. And then on the rest of the menu, Trump wants to kick people off food stamps since Congress wouldn't. The bigoted Georgia GOP gubernatorial candidate behind the deportation bus is indicted for a fake burglary scheme. These guys never stop. Oh, and there was a great story elsewhere, too. Well, too bad I didn't get to that. But the Justice Department indicted 2 Chinese spies for hacking the U.S. Navy. Reince Priebus probably helped them do that. NASA and businesses in various sectors. They're hacking everybody, the Chinese. More at the chef's table. I'll tell you all about it after this.
From Daily Kos Radio on netrootsradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Ready for this one? An anti-Obamacare lawyer decimated his own case in an interview with a conservative outlet. And the wonder-filled baby Jesus stories were late additions to early Christian lore and were centuries in the making. Always an interesting inquiry. I hear a lot. We're hearing more and more about it. This Jesus, people are recognizing him. We'll be back.